against Donald Trump as the Republican nominee has historically been that he is unelectable. That's been the argument against him because obviously he lost to Joe Biden in. Well, the big argument against Donald Trump as the Republican nominee has historically been that he is unelectable. That's been the argument against him because obviously he lost to Joe Biden in 2020. He didn't win the popular vote against Hillary Clinton in 2016 and squeaked out a win against her in that election cycle. And thus, going up against Joe Biden again, he is going to hit the same ceiling that he hit in 2016 and 2020, which was about 46% of the vote. But if the polls start to show that Donald Trump actually does not have a ceiling at 46%, instead his ceiling is 50 or 51, the electability argument against Donald Trump goes completely away. Well, now we have, for the first time, a poll showing Donald Trump breaking that glass ceiling. According to the Washington Post over the weekend, this poll shows Donald Trump over Joe Biden by 10 points. That is an amazing poll. In fact, it's such an amazing poll that the Washington Post has already labeled its own poll an outlier, saying that you can take a poll. This is true. You can take a poll, and sometimes the selection of the people who are in the poll is a little bit weird, and so you get an outlier poll. But the problem is this: even if the poll is off by margin of error, 5, 6, 7 points, that would demonstrate that Trump is still running dead even with Joe Biden, which again undercuts the unelectability argument against Donald Trump. According to the Washington Post, Biden and former President Trump appear headed for a rematch of their 2020 contest, although more than 3 in 5 Democrats and Democratic-leading independents say they would prefer a nominee other than the president. But Biden's advisors have argued he's still the strongest Democrat for 2024. It seems to me that there is the possibility that all of this bad polling for Biden is leading up to an attempt to defenestrate Biden, to get rid of him, to toss him out a window, to find somebody else who can replace him. Presumably, that would not be one of the candidates we're currently talking about. You could see a situation in which Michelle Obama parachutes in from the rafters in order to sweep up the nomination by acclaim. One thing is for certain: Joe Biden running this week against Donald Trump is horrible for the prospect of Joe Biden as the actual 2024 nominee. According to the Post-ABC poll, it shows Biden trailing Trump by 10 percentage points. But then the Washington Post qualifies to say the sizable margin of Trump's lead in the survey is significantly at odds with other public polls that show the general election contest a virtual dead heat. The difference between this polls and others, as well as the unusual makeup of Trump and Biden's coalitions in this survey, suggests it is probably an outlier. Again, this is the Washington Post undermining its own poll. Now, I'm not going to do the poll unskewing. What I will point out is that this is the second presidential poll in the last 3 that shows Donald Trump with an actual sizable lead against Joe Biden. The last poll before this was an NBC News poll that showed them tied at 46%. The poll before that was a poll from the Messenger Harris X, which showed Trump up 5. In fact, there is no poll with Joe Biden up more than 1% in the last month and a half. Every poll has either Trump up 1 or Biden up 1, or they're tied. The Messenger Harris X poll has Trump up 5. Now, this would suggest there's still a sizable undecided population that is out there. I'm just going to read you the latest polls in this particular matchup. ABC News Wash Post, Trump plus 10. NBC News, tie. The Messenger, Harris X, Trump plus 5. Emerson Yahoo News Morning Consult, tie. Harvard Harris, Trump up 1. Rasmussen Reports, Trump up 4. Rasmussen Reports Biden plus 1. Economist YouGov, Biden up 1. Fox News, Trump up 2. So in other words, it's either margin of error or Trump up. That seems to be the polling trend. And that is different than it was just a few months ago. A few months ago, there was a suggestion that actually Biden had a pretty sizable lead. If you go all the way back to July, Quinnipiac had Biden up 5. You had Yahoo News with Biden up 4. If you go back a little further than that, Yahoo News had Biden up 7. But bottom line is, this is a very competitive race. And the reason this is a competitive race is because Joe Biden is a terrible president. What you're seeing in this poll is horrific numbers for Joe Biden. Joe Biden's job approval rating right now, according to this post-ABC News poll, is 37%. 56% disapprove. I mean, that's an amazing 37% approval rating for the sitting president of the United States. As far as the state of the nation's economy, 25% believe that it is excellent or good, compared to 74% who believe that it is not so good or poor. 35% believe that the unemployment rate is excellent or good, compared to 57% who believe it is not so good or poor. On food prices, 91% of people believe it is not so good or poor. Biden has terrible ratings on the economy and immigration as well.